Dr. Hyunwoo Kim stood in front of the massive viewing window of New Seoul Station and watched Earth slowly turn below him. The blue marble looked peaceful from this distance, but he knew millions of people were living their daily lives down there. His wife Yoonji worked beside him in the laboratory, checking the quantum tunneling equipment one more time. They had been trying to make this technology work for 3 years now, and today felt different. "The readings are stable," Yoonji said as she looked at her screen. "I think we might actually succeed this time." Hyunwoo smiled at her. They had met in university and had been working together ever since. Both of them believed that quantum tunneling could change everything for humanity. If they could make objects disappear from one place and appear in another instantly, travel between stars would become as easy as walking through a door. New Seoul Station was home to 50,000 people, scientists, engineers, doctors, teachers, and their families all lived and worked together in this massive structure that orbited Earth. Children played in the parks that were built inside the station. Restaurants served food from every culture on Earth. It was like a small city floating in space. The station had been built 20 years ago when humanity first reached out to explore space seriously. Other alien species had been watching them for decades, but most humans did not know this yet. Earth's leaders knew about some alien contacts, but they kept this information secret to avoid panic among the population. Admiral Taemin Choi sat in his office on Luna Base, Earth's moon, reviewing reports from deep space monitoring stations. His job was to watch for any threats that might come from beyond Earth's solar system. For the past few months, his sensors had detected unusual activity near the edge of the system, but nothing that seemed immediately dangerous. Captain Jin Ho Lee commanded the defense frigate Indomitable, one of 30 ships that protected Earth and its colonies. His ship was not very large compared to the massive cargo vessels that moved between planets, but it was fast and well-armed. Jin-ho had been in the Earth Defense Force for 15 years and had never seen real combat. Most of his work involved stopping pirates or helping ships in distress. Today started like any other day. Hyunwoo and Yoonji prepared their equipment for another test. Admiral Taemin reviewed his morning reports. Captain Jin-ho conducted routine patrol duties near Mars. 50,000 people on New Seoul Station went about their normal lives. On Earth, billions of people woke up, went to work, attended school, and spent time with their families. At exactly 1400 hours Earth Standard Time, everything changed. The first sign of trouble came from the deep space sensors. Admiral Taemin's communication officer, Lieutenant Bora Shin, received an urgent signal from the outer monitoring stations. "Admiral," she said with worry in her voice, "we have multiple large contacts approaching the system at high speed. They are not responding to our identification requests." Taemin looked at the tactical display. Dozens of red dots were moving toward Earth faster than any human ship could travel. The contacts were still several hours away, but their size and speed were unlike anything in the Earth Defense Force database. "Send a priority alert to all defense units," Taemin ordered. "Bring all ships to battle readiness. Contact Earth Command and inform them we may have a first contact situation." Captain Jin-ho received the alert while his ship was near the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. He immediately changed course toward Earth and began preparing his crew for possible combat. His weapons officer, Ensign Jae-ho Park, had never fired the ship's guns except in training exercises. "Sir," Jae-ho said as he checked his systems, "our weapons are ready, but we have never fought aliens before. We do not know what their capabilities are." Jin-ho nodded grimly. The Earth Defense Force had trained for this possibility, but everyone hoped it would never happen. Human ships were designed based on what seemed logical for space combat, but they had no idea how alien technology might work. On New Seoul Station, Hyunwoo and Yoonji were focused on their experiment and did not immediately notice the alert signals. The quantum tunneling device hummed with energy as they prepared to send a small metal cube from one chamber to another without it traveling through the space between them. "Energy levels are optimal," Yoonji reported. "Beginning quantum field initialization." The device activated, and for a moment both scientists thought they saw the metal cube flicker and become transparent. Then alarms began blaring throughout the station. "All personnel report to emergency stations. announced the station's AI system. "This is not a drill. Unknown contacts approaching Earth. Prepare for possible hostile action." Hyunwoo and Eunji looked at each other with concern. They quickly shut down their experiment and hurried to the nearest communication terminal to find out what was happening. The alien fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. There were over 200 ships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. The largest vessels were 5 kilometers long and bristled with weapon systems that human sensors could barely identify. Admiral Taemin watched the tactical display with growing horror as his sensors analyzed the alien fleet. The technology readings were far beyond human capabilities. Their ships seemed to be powered by energy sources that produced more power than Earth's entire electrical grid. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, Commander Ye Jin, "we are detecting massive weapons signatures from the alien vessels. Their firepower appears to be several orders of magnitude greater than our entire defense fleet combined." The alien commander was named Vorthak Prime Theron, though humans would not learn his name until much later. He stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the small blue planet ahead. His species had conquered 47 other worlds, and each conquest had followed the same pattern. Demonstrate overwhelming force, demand surrender, accept submission, and integrate the defeated species into the Vorthak Imperium as slave workers. Theron had reviewed the intelligence reports about humanity. They were a young species that had barely begun to explore space. Their technology was primitive, their weapons were weak, and their ships were tiny. This would be the easiest conquest in Vorthak history. "Begin the demonstration," Theron ordered his weapons officer. "Target their major population centers. Make sure the display is impressive enough to break their will to resist immediately." The Vorthak fleet moved into position around Earth. They did not bother with military targets first. Their strategy was always the same: show the enemy population that resistance was hopeless by destroying their largest cities. Captain Jinho's ship was still hours away from Earth when the bombardment began. His sensors detected massive energy, discharges from the alien vessels, followed by explosions on Earth's surface that were visible from space. "My God," whispered his navigator, Lieutenant Sungmin Kang, as he watched the tactical display. "They are firing on the cities directly." Seoul was the first to die. The ancient capital of Korea, home to 10 million people, vanished in a flash of light that could be seen from orbit. Tokyo followed seconds later, then New York, London, Mumbai, and Cairo. Within minutes, humanity's greatest cities were nothing but glass craters glowing with residual heat. On New Seoul Station, Hyunwoo and Eunji watched in shock as the orbital cameras showed the destruction below. Eunji began to cry as she realized that everyone they had ever known on Earth was probably dead. Her parents lived in Seoul. His brother worked in Tokyo. All gone in seconds. 50 billion dead, whispered the station commander, Admiral Haewon Lee, as she looked at the preliminary casualty estimates. "They killed 50 billion people without even asking us to surrender first." But Admiral Taemin on Luna Base knew the truth. His communication systems had recorded a brief transmission from the alien fleet just before the bombardment began. It was in broken English, clearly translated by computer systems. "Primitive humans. Submit to Vorthak Imperium or be exterminated. You have 72 hours to surrender all military forces and accept slave status. This demonstration shows futility of resistance. Choose wisely." The message was broadcast on all frequencies so that every human ship and station would receive it. The aliens expected terror, panic, and immediate surrender. They had seen this reaction from every other species they had conquered. Instead, something else began to happen. As news of the bombardment spread through the human colonies and space stations, a cold fury began to build. These aliens had not even tried to negotiate. They had not issued warnings or demanded tribute. They had simply murdered billions of innocent people as a casual demonstration of power. Admiral Taemin felt his hands shaking as he prepared his response to Earth Command. The defense fleet was outnumbered and outgunned by impossible odds, but he knew that humans would not simply surrender after watching their homeworld burn. Captain Jin Ho received new orders as his ship raced toward Earth. He was to link up with the other surviving vessels and prepare for a counterattack. His crew looked at him with determination instead of fear. They all knew they were probably going to die, but they also knew they could not let this attack go unanswered. On New Sol Station, Hyunwoo looked at the quantum tunneling device that had been humming quietly in the background during all the chaos. For 3 years, the 72 hours passed like a nightmare that would not end. Admiral Soo-Jin Han had been promoted to Supreme Commander of all human forces after the previous leadership died in the bombardment of Earth. She stood in the emergency command center that had been hastily set up on Titan Station, Saturn's largest moon base, and watched the countdown timer reach 0. During those 3 days, the surviving human population had evacuated underground or fled to the outer colonies. The lunar bases were packed with refugees from Earth. The asteroid mining stations took in anyone who could make the journey. Space was filled with civilian ships carrying people away from the devastated homeworld, but not everyone was running. Soo-Jin had spent every hour of those 3 days coordinating with the scattered defense forces and the brilliant scientists who had survived the attack. She was a career military officer who had never expected to command humanity's response to an alien invasion, but she was learning fast that humans could adapt to impossible situations when they had no choice. "Time is up," announced her aide, Commander Dong-Ho Kim. "The aliens are requesting our surrender transmission." Soo-Jin looked around the command center at the faces of her staff. These people had lost everything 3 days ago, but instead of despair, she saw cold determination in their eyes. Humanity had been pushed to the edge of extinction, and something primal had awakened in response. "Open a channel to the alien fleet," Soo-Jin ordered. "All frequencies. Make sure every ship in the system can hear this." The communication officer established the link. Across the solar system, human ships and stations received Soo-Jin's transmission at the same time the alien fleet did. Her voice was calm and steady, but there was something underneath it that made even her own people shiver. "This is Admiral Soo-Jin Han speaking for humanity. You wanted to see what humans do when cornered. You demanded our surrender after murdering 50 billion innocent people. Here is our answer. We reject your demands. We reject your authority. We reject your existence in our system. You wanted to see what humans do when cornered? You are about to find out." The transmission ended. Across the solar system, human ships began moving toward predetermined positions. The defense fleet was outnumbered 20-1, but they were not planning to fight a conventional battle. Dr. Hyun-woo had not slept for 3 days. He and Eunji had been working around the clock with teams of engineers and physicists to modify their quantum tunneling research. What had been a peaceful experiment in instant transportation was becoming something very different. "The theoretical framework is sound," Eunji reported to the assembled scientists on New Sol Station. "We can create stable quantum tunnels, large enough for a ship to pass through, but the energy requirements are enormous." Engineer Dong-Hyun Yoo had been studying the design specifications since the bombardment began. He was the chief of propulsion systems for the Earth Defense Force, and his mind was working faster than it ever had before. The impossible had become necessary, and humans were making it happen. "We can do it," Dong-Hyun announced. "We strip the weapons and life support from half our ships and use them as pure power sources. The remaining ships get quantum tunnel generators. It will be dangerous, and most of the crews will probably die, but it can work." The plan was insane by any normal standards. They were proposing to modify military spacecraft with experimental technology that had never been tested properly. The quantum tunneling device had managed to transport a small metal cube a few meters during peacetime laboratory conditions. Now they wanted to use it to move entire starships across space instantly. But these were not normal times. The aliens had made it clear that surrender meant slavery for any humans who survived. Death in battle was better than spending eternity as alien property. Colonel Min-Soo Kang was coordinating the evacuation of Earth's remaining population to the underground cities that had been built decades ago for nuclear war scenarios. Millions of people were hiding in bunkers and caves, waiting to see if humanity would survive the next few days. "Status report from all evacuation sites," Min-Soo requested from his command post deep under the Rocky Mountains. His communications officer, Major Yoo-Jin Lee, consulted her displays. Approximately 2 billion people are now in secure underground facilities. The rest are either dead or en route to off-world colonies. Supplies will last for 6 months if we ration carefully. Min-Su nodded grimly. 6 months was not very long, but it might be enough time for the military to accomplish something. He had faith in Admiral Su-Jin and the other commanders, but he also knew the odds they were facing. The alien commander, Vorthak Prime Theron, received the human transmission with amusement. In his experience, defiant words from a defeated enemy were just the final stage of denial before acceptance. He had heard similar speeches from the leaders of 47 other species before they eventually surrendered. Increase bombardment intensity, Theron ordered. Target their remaining population centers and military installations. Break their will to resist. But as the alien weapons fired on Earth's surface again, something unexpected happened. The human ships that had been scattered throughout the system began to disappear. Not destroyed, not retreating, disappearing. Captain Jin-Ho Lee stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and felt his stomach lurch as the quantum tunnel opened around his ship. One moment he was near Jupiter, the next moment he was behind the alien fleet near Earth. His crew looked around in amazement as they realized the experimental technology had actually worked. Weapons hot, Jin-Ho ordered. Target the nearest alien vessel. Fire everything we have, then get us out of here. The Indomitable unleashed its full arsenal into the rear shields of an alien cruiser, causing significant damage before disappearing again through another quantum tunnel. From the alien perspective, a human ship had appeared from nowhere, attacked and vanished before they could respond. Commander Yuri Seo piloted one of the first stealth ships equipped with the new quantum drive. Her vessel was smaller and faster than the main battle cruisers, designed for hit-and-run attacks behind enemy lines. As her ship emerged from a quantum tunnel inside the alien formation, she felt a savage satisfaction at the confusion she saw on their sensor displays. Multiple contacts appearing throughout the fleet. Yuri heard on the alien communications that her ship's computers had learned to intercept. Origin unknown. Weapons fire from impossible positions. Her ship fired a spread of missiles at an alien supply vessel, then tunneled away before the escorts could target her. Seconds later, she was attacking a different ship on the opposite side of the alien fleet. The Vorthak had never encountered anything like quantum tunneling technology. Their ships were powerful and well defended, but their tactics assumed that enemy vessels had to travel through normal space to reach their targets. Humans were ignoring the normal rules of space combat entirely. Dr. Yoon-ji monitored the quantum tunnel network from New Seoul Station's command center. Each successful tunnel opening taught them more about how to control the technology. The power requirements were enormous, but human engineers were learning to work with energy levels that would have been impossible just days ago. Tunnel stability is improving, she reported to Admiral Su-Jin. The ships are able to make multiple jumps before their generators need to recharge. We are maintaining approximately 60% operational efficiency. That meant 40% of the ships attempting to use quantum tunnels were being destroyed or disabled by the experimental technology. Under normal circumstances, such losses would be unacceptable. But these were not normal circumstances, and the surviving ships were proving that humans could strike anywhere in the solar system without warning. Engineer Dong-hyun was already working on improvements to the quantum drive systems. Every ship that returned from a successful attack provided data that helped him refine the technology. What had started as a desperate experiment was becoming a practical weapons system. We need more power, Dong-hyun told his engineering teams. Strip everything non-essential from the power ships, life support, crew quarters, weapons, navigation. Turn them into pure energy sources for the quantum drives. The volunteers who operated the power ships knew they were signing their own death warrants. The modified vessels had no life support systems and barely enough shielding to protect the crew during short-term operations. But they also knew that their sacrifice was making it possible for other human ships to fight back against impossible odds. Admiral Taemin coordinated the attacks from Luna Base, using his deep space sensors to track alien ship movements and identify targets of opportunity. The quantum tunnel attacks were forcing the aliens to spread their fleet to cover more space, which made them vulnerable to concentrated human strikes. Pattern analysis shows the aliens are adapting to our tactics, Taemin reported to Sujin. They are keeping their ships in tighter formations and maintaining overlapping defensive fields. We need to escalate our response. Sujin studied the tactical displays and made a decision that would have seemed impossible just days ago. Authorize quantum mining operations. If they want to occupy our system, we will make it too dangerous for them to stay here. Dr. Hyun-woo received the authorization to begin the most ambitious project yet. Working with teams of physicists and engineers, 6 months had passed since the Vorthak bombardment of Earth, and the war had spread far beyond the solar system. What began as humanity's desperate defense had evolved into something the aliens never expected to face, a species that learned faster than they could adapt. Captain Woo Jin Park commanded a wolf pack of 12 quantum-capable vessels that operated deep in Vorthak space, hundreds of light years from Earth. His ships could appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning, strike at alien supply convoys and vanish before reinforcements arrived. The aliens called his unit the Ghost Fleet because they seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Target confirmed, reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Hae-soo Kim, as they observed a Vorthak supply convoy moving between 2 alien star systems. 47 cargo vessels, 8 escort ships, standard defensive formation. Woo Jin studied the tactical display with the cold efficiency that had kept his crews alive for 6 months of constant combat. The aliens had adapted their tactics since the early days of the war, but humans adapted faster. Every encounter taught them something new about Vorthak technology and strategy. Phase 1, Woo Jin ordered. All ships prepare quantum tunnels. We hit them hard and fast, then disappear before they know what happened. His fleet materialized in the middle of the convoy formation, their quantum drives allowing them to appear inside the alien defensive perimeter. The escort ships scrambled to respond, but the human vessels were already firing on the cargo ships and preparing to tunnel away to their next attack position. Dr. Yoon-ji had spent the past 6 months refining quantum tunneling technology from her laboratory on New Seoul Station. What had started as an experimental research project was now the foundation of humanity's entire military strategy. Her latest breakthrough was even more revolutionary than the original discovery. Quantum phase variance achieved, she announced to her research team. Human ships can now exist in multiple dimensional phases simultaneously. The implications were staggering. Vorthak shields and weapons were designed to work in normal space. Human ships that existed partially in subspace could pass through alien defenses as if they were not there. The technology was dangerous and required precise calibration, but it gave human forces an almost impossible advantage. Admiral Taemin had been promoted to command the deep strike operations that targeted Vorthak worlds directly. His ships used quantum tunnels to appear in alien star systems, destroy critical infrastructure, and escape before the local defense forces could respond. The aliens were learning that nowhere in their territory was safe from human attack. Intelligence. Update from our reconnaissance units, reported his aide, Commander Joo-hyun Lee. The Vorthak High Command has recalled ships from 3 frontier sectors to defend their core worlds. Their expansion operations have been suspended indefinitely. Taemin smiled grimly at the tactical display. 6 months ago, the Vorthak Imperium had been expanding across the galaxy, conquering new species and growing stronger every year. Now they were pulling back their forces to protect their own territory from human raids that could strike anywhere without warning. The Vorthak communication networks had become a major target for human cyber warfare specialists. Specialist Jae Sung Lim led a team of experts who had learned to intercept and manipulate alien transmissions. They discovered that Vorthak technology relied heavily on quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication across galactic distances. We have successfully penetrated their primary communication hub, Jae Sung reported to Admiral Soo Jin from his command center, hidden in the asteroid belt. Their fleet coordination is completely compromised. We can alter their orders, redirect their ships, and feed them false intelligence. The psychological impact on Vorthak forces was devastating. Commanders received contradictory orders that sent their fleets to empty space, while human attacks hit undefended targets. Supply ships were redirected away from battle zones just when they were needed most. The aliens began to suspect sabotage and betrayal within their own ranks. Vorthak Prime. Theron stood in his command center and stared at reports that made no sense. His forces outnumbered the humans by more than 10 to 1. Their technology was supposedly superior, and their ships were individually more powerful than anything humanity could build. Yet somehow, his empire was losing the war. Explain to me, again, how an entire supply fleet can simply disappear, Theron demanded of his intelligence officer. Unknown, sir, the officer replied nervously. Our ships report normal operations, then all contact is lost. When we send investigation teams, they find only debris fields. No survivors, no witnesses, no tactical data about what happened. Theron had conquered 47 species during his military career, and none of them had presented challenges like this. Other races either fought conventional battles that his superior firepower could win, or they surrendered when faced with overwhelming force. Humans did neither. They fought a war that ignored conventional tactics entirely. Fleet Admiral Bo Young Kang commanded the human forces that had learned to turn Vorthak tactics against them. Every alien strategy was studied, analyzed, and countered within days of its first use. Human ships began using captured Vorthak technology combined with quantum tunneling to create weapon systems the aliens could not predict or defend against. Pattern recognition shows the aliens are becoming predictable, Bo Young reported to the War Council. They respond to our attacks with the same tactics their species has used for centuries. We can anticipate their moves 3 or 4 steps ahead. The aliens' greatest strength had become their weakness. The Vorthak Imperium was an ancient civilization that had perfected their methods of conquest over thousands of years. They had never faced an enemy that could learn and adapt faster than they could change their approach. Human ships began appearing in Vorthak star systems with weapons that combined alien technology with quantum physics in ways that should have been impossible. Missiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously passed through shields and armor as if they were not there. Energy weapons that fired through quantum tunnels struck targets from angles that had no physical existence. Dr. Hyunwoo had moved beyond defensive applications of quantum technology and was now developing weapons that could destroy entire star systems. Working with teams of physicists who had survived the bombardment of Earth, he was learning to manipulate the fundamental forces that held matter together. Quantum destabilization field tested successfully, Hyunwoo announced after reviewing the data from a remote test site. We can now disrupt the atomic bonds that hold planets together. The weapon exists as pure energy in subspace until activated, making it impossible to detect or defend against. The test had completely destroyed an uninhabited planet in a remote system. The weapon created an expanding field of quantum instability that reduced solid matter to its component atoms within seconds. It was the ultimate deterrent weapon, but also something that could never be used carelessly. Commander Seok Jin Lee led the deep strike forces that began targeting Vorthak homeworlds directly. His ships carried quantum destabilization weapons into the heart of alien territory and demonstrated that humanity could now destroy any target they chose. The message was clear. If the aliens wanted total war, humans would give them total war. First warning delivered to Vorthak Prime Command. Seok-jin reported after his fleet materialized in orbit around one of the alien core worlds. We destroyed their largest moon as a demonstration. Complete planetary sterilization is possible within hours if they do not withdraw from human space. The aliens had never faced an enemy capable of threatening their homeworlds. For thousands of years, the Vorthak Imperium had projected power outward from secure core territories that no enemy could reach. Human quantum technology made distance irrelevant and turned every alien world into a potential target. Vorthak military commanders began requesting negotiations for the first time in their species' history. They sent messages offering to discuss terms for ending the conflict, but the human response was always the same: complete withdrawal from the solar system and reparations for the billions of dead. Admiral Su Jin had become the voice of humanity's response to alien peace offers. She stood in the rebuilt command center on New Sol Station and delivered messages that were broadcast throughout Vorthak space. Her words were translated into dozens of alien languages, but the meaning was always clear. You had your chance to talk before you murdered our children, Su Jin's latest message declared. You chose to demonstrate your power by destroying our cities and killing our people. Now you will learn what human power looks like when we choose to demonstrate it. The psychological warfare was as effective as the military strikes. Alien civilian populations began to panic as human ships appeared in their star systems without warning. Vorthak colonies started evacuating as rumors spread that humans could destroy entire worlds with weapons that could not be detected or stopped. The alien economy began to collapse as trade routes became too dangerous to use. Human raiders struck at commercial shipping with the same efficiency they used against military targets. Cargo vessels that took months to build were destroyed in seconds by attackers who appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. 1 year after the bombardment, the Vorthak Imperium was in full retreat across 3 star systems. Supreme Admiral Chang Ho-Yun stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Retribution and watched alien ships fleeing from human space as fast as their engines could carry them. The massive vessel was humanity's first purpose-built quantum warfare ship, designed from the ground up to use the technologies that had evolved from Dr. Hyun Woo's peaceful research. Enemy fleet composition confirmed, reported his tactical officer, Commander So-Young Park. 237 Vorthak vessels attempting to evacuate the Proxima system. They are abandoning all orbital installations and ground facilities. Chang Ho studied the tactical display with the cold satisfaction of a predator watching prey flee. The aliens who had seemed so confident a year ago were now running from human forces that appeared wherever they were least expected. But humanity was not content to simply drive the invaders away. They had learned to be systematically ruthless. Deploy quantum mines throughout their evacuation route, Chang Ho ordered. I want those ships to understand that retreat is just as dangerous as standing and fighting. Dr. Hyun Woo had perfected quantum mines that existed in dimensional flux, until triggered by the quantum signatures of specific ship types. The mines could be programmed to target only Vorthak vessels, while allowing human ships to pass safely through the same space. From the alien perspective, empty space would suddenly explode without any warning or visible cause. The first mines activated as the fleeing Vorthak fleet passed through what they thought was safe space. Explosions materialized out of nowhere, destroying ships that had survived months of conventional combat. The surviving vessels scattered in panic, only to encounter more mines that had been placed along every possible escape route. General Hae Jin Moon commanded the ground forces that had learned to use quantum tunneling for instantaneous planetary assault. Her troops could appear anywhere on a planet's surface without warning, bypass all orbital defenses and establish secure beachheads before the enemy knew they were under attack. The technology had revolutionized ground warfare just as thoroughly as it had changed space combat. Operation Hammerfall is ready to commence, Hyejin reported to Supreme Command from her staging area in the outer system. We have 30,000 troops prepared for simultaneous deployment to 17 Vorthak worlds. Once we establish quantum tunnel networks on each planet, reinforcement will be instantaneous. The plan was ambitious beyond anything humanity had attempted before. Instead of attacking one target at a time, they would assault an entire star system simultaneously. Vorthak ground forces would find themselves facing human troops on every world they controlled, with no way to predict where the next attack would come from. Vorthak High Command had realized their fatal error, but it was too late to correct it. They had assumed that humans were like the other 47 species they had conquered. That overwhelming demonstration of force would break their will to resist and force them to accept subjugation. Instead, they had awakened a species that viewed genocide as a declaration of eternal war. Prime Commander Vorthak Ziren had replaced Theron after the previous leader's forces suffered catastrophic losses in human space. Ziren stood in the heavily defended command bunker on the Vorthak homeworld and studied reports that painted an impossible picture of military disaster. How many ships have we lost to these quantum weapons? Ziren demanded of his intelligence staff. Current estimates suggest 60% of our total fleet strength, replied Intelligence Director Korthak Vess. The humans appear to have unlimited access to this instantaneous travel technology. Our ships cannot hide, cannot retreat to safe positions, and cannot predict where attacks will come from. Zarin had spent his entire career studying military, strategy, and tactics, but human warfare defied everything he understood about combat. The aliens fought battles by concentrating force against specific targets and overwhelming enemy defenses through superior firepower. Humans ignored the normal rules of engagement entirely. Commander Seok Jin Lee's Deep Strike forces had expanded their operations beyond military targets to focus on the psychological foundations of Vorthak society. Human ships appeared in orbit around alien civilian worlds and broadcast messages that were translated into the local languages. "This is Commander Lee of the Human Defense Force," his latest transmission announced to the terrified population of a Vorthak colony world. "Your government chose to murder 50 billion innocent humans as a demonstration of power. We are here to demonstrate what human power looks like when we choose to use it." The broadcasts were followed by precisely targeted strikes that destroyed government buildings, military installations, and communication networks while leaving civilian areas untouched. The message was clear. Humans could kill anyone they wanted to kill anytime they wanted to do it. But they chose their targets carefully. The psychological impact was devastating. Vorthak civilians realized that their mighty military could not protect them from human attacks that could materialize anywhere without warning. Colony worlds began declaring independence from the Imperium and requesting separate peace negotiations with humanity. Admiral Su Jin had moved her command center to a mobile platform that used quantum tunneling to relocate randomly throughout human space. She could direct military operations from anywhere in the galaxy while remaining impossible for alien forces to target. Her latest strategic directive was as simple as it was terrifying. "The Vorthak Imperium will cease to exist," Su Jin announced, during a secure communication with all human military commanders. "We are not fighting for territory or resources. We are fighting to ensure that no species ever again attempts to exterminate humanity. Total victory is the only acceptable outcome." Dr. Yunji had developed quantum technology applications that went far beyond anything the original research had envisioned. Working with teams of engineers and physicists who had lost family members in the bombardment, she was creating weapons that could manipulate matter at the atomic level. "Quantum disintegration field tested successfully," Yunji reported after, reviewing data from the latest weapons test. "We can now target specific molecular structures and break them down into component atoms. Vorthak armor and hull material simply cease to exist when exposed to the field." The new weapons made Vorthak defensive technology completely obsolete. Ships that had been designed to withstand conventional energy weapons and kinetic projectiles were helpless against attacks that dissolved their hulls at the molecular level. Human forces could destroy any alien vessel simply by exposing it to quantum fields that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Fleet Admiral Bo Young Kang had learned to anticipate Vorthak tactical responses so precisely that human forces could counter alien strategies before they were fully implemented. Every pattern of behavior that the aliens had developed over thousands of years of conquest had been analyzed and turned against them. Intelligence analysis confirms that Vorthak forces are attempting to establish defensive positions around their core worlds, Bo Young reported during the daily strategy briefing. They are concentrating their remaining fleet strength in 3 star systems and preparing for extended siege warfare. Chang Ho smiled grimly at the tactical display. The aliens were still thinking in terms of conventional military strategy, trying to create defensive positions that could withstand human attacks. They did not understand that quantum technology made such positions meaningless. "Prepare for Operation Final Solution," Chang Ho ordered. "We will demonstrate to the Vorthak High Command that there is no defensive position in the galaxy that can protect them from human weapons." The operation would target all 3 Vorthak core systems simultaneously using quantum destabilization weapons that could destroy entire planets. The attack would not be intended to kill alien civilians, but to demonstrate that humanity now possessed the power to exterminate any species that threatened them. Captain Wu Jin Park's Wolf Pack had grown into a full battle fleet that operated independently throughout Vorthak space. His ships appeared wherever alien resistance was strongest and eliminated it with efficiency that had become legendary among human forces. The aliens called his fleet the Harbingers because their appearance meant that death was coming. Final. Vorthak's stronghold in the Vega system has been neutralized. Wu Jin reported after his latest successful operation. Enemy forces either destroyed or scattered beyond the ability to regroup. The system is now open for human occupation if desired. But humanity was not interested in conquering alien worlds. They were interested in ensuring that the Vorthak Imperium could never again threaten any species anywhere in the galaxy. The message they were sending was simple. Genocidal aggression would result in complete extinction of the aggressor species. Specialist Jae-Sung Lim's cyber warfare operations had achieved complete penetration of Vorthak communication networks. His teams could monitor every alien transmission, alter any message, and coordinate false intelligence operations that kept enemy forces confused and ineffective. Vorthak High Command is requesting emergency negotiations with human representatives, Jae-Sung reported during an intelligence briefing. 2 years after the bombardment, the Vorthak Imperium no longer existed. Their species was scattered across the galaxy as refugees. Their once mighty fleets were nothing but debris fields, and their worlds were either occupied by human forces or abandoned entirely. But the most significant change was not the destruction of one alien empire. It was the transformation of humanity itself. President Ji Hoon Song stood at the podium in the rebuilt council chamber of New Seoul Station and looked out at representatives from 43 different alien species. These beings had come from across the galaxy to attend the first Galactic Assembly, since humanity's emergence as the dominant military power. Most of them had secretly celebrated when the Vorthak attacked Earth, expecting to see the upstart humans eliminated from galactic politics forever. 2 years ago, the Vorthak Imperium attacked our homeworld without provocation. Ji-hoon began his address to the assembled aliens. They murdered 50 billion innocent people as a demonstration of their power. Today, their empire is gone, their fleets are destroyed, and their species exists only as scattered refugees begging for sanctuary on worlds they once threatened to conquer. The alien representatives listened in silence. Many of them had witnessed the systematic dismantling of Vorthak civilization by human forces that could appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. They had watched in growing terror as humanity demonstrated military capabilities that made distance and defensive positions completely irrelevant. Dr. Yoon Ji had spent the past 2 years refining quantum tunneling technology until it became as reliable as any other human invention. The research laboratory that had once struggled to transport a small metal cube across a few meters of space now coordinated quantum tunnel networks that connected every human world and installation throughout the galaxy. Quantum Tunnel Network. Status report. Yoonji announced to the assembled scientists and engineers. We now maintain stable connections between 437 human installations across 212 star systems. Travel time between any 2 points in our network is less than 30 seconds. The implications were staggering. Humanity had become the first species in galactic history that could coordinate activities across interstellar distances in real time. Their scientists could collaborate on projects while separated by thousands of light years. Their military forces could respond to threats anywhere in the galaxy within minutes. Their civilian population could relocate entire cities if their current worlds became uninhabitable. Admiral Chang Ho announced the establishment of the Human Guardian Fleet during a ceremony broadcast throughout the galaxy. The new organization was dedicated to ensuring that no species would ever again attempt the kind of genocidal attack that the Vorthak had launched against Earth. The Guardian Fleet will maintain permanent presence in every star system where intelligent life exists, Chang Ho declared from the bridge of the quantum dreadnought Eternal Vigilance. Any species that attempts to commit genocide against another will face immediate and total retaliation from human forces. The fleet consisted of ships that existed partially in subspace, making them invisible to conventional sensors, while allowing them to monitor activities throughout the galaxy. The aliens realized that humanity was now watching everything they did, ready to intervene if anyone attempted to repeat the Vorthak mistake. Captain Yuri Seo had been promoted to lead the first quantum exploration fleet that would venture beyond the galactic rim into unknown space. Her ships could travel instantly to any location in the universe where quantum tunnels could be established, effectively making humanity's expansion unlimited by the normal constraints of distance and time. Preparation for extragalactic exploration complete. Yuri reported during the mission briefing. We will establish quantum tunnel networks in the nearest galaxy clusters and begin systematic exploration of civilizations that may exist beyond our current sphere of influence. The message that humanity would carry beyond the galaxy was simple but profound. They remembered everything and forgave nothing. Any species that encountered human explorers would learn that Earth had been attacked without provocation, and that the attackers had been completely eliminated in response. President Ji-hoon continued his address to the Galactic Assembly with words that sent chills through every alien representative in attendance. Some of you in this chamber secretly hoped that the Vorthak would succeed in destroying humanity. You saw us as upstart primitives who needed to be eliminated before we became a threat to the established order. You were right to be concerned, but wrong about who the real threat was. The aliens had indeed underestimated humanity, but not in the way they originally thought. They had assumed that humans would be easy to conquer because of their relatively primitive technology and small military forces. Instead, they discovered that humanity's greatest strength was their ability to adapt and innovate under extreme pressure. Dr. Hyun-woo stood in his expanded laboratory complex and looked at quantum tunneling devices that had evolved far beyond anything he had originally envisioned. What had started as a peaceful research project into instantaneous transportation had become the foundation of humanity's transformation into a galactic superpower. Quantum manipulation technology has reached theoretical limits, Hyun-woo announced to his research teams. We can now alter the fundamental structure of space-time itself. Matter, energy, distance, and time can all be modified according to human requirements. The technology had progressed to the point where humans could literally rewrite the laws of physics in localized areas. They could create zones where alien weapons would not function, or where their own ships could exist in multiple dimensions, simultaneously. They had become beings of near godlike power compared to other species in the galaxy. Specialist Jae-sung Lim had expanded his cyber warfare operations to monitor communications from every known alien civilization. His networks could intercept and analyze transmissions across the entire galaxy, providing humanity with advance warning of any potential threats or hostile intentions. Galactic communication monitoring shows universal compliance with human directives. Jae-sung reported during the security briefing. No species is currently planning aggressive actions against any other species. The mere possibility of human intervention has effectively ended large-scale warfare throughout the galaxy. The psychological impact of humanity's emergence had fundamentally changed galactic politics. Species that had been at war for centuries suddenly found peaceful solutions to their conflicts rather than risk attracting human attention. The threat of quantum warfare had created a galaxy-wide peace that no previous power had been able to achieve. Admiral Su-jin had been elevated to the position of Supreme Commander of Human Forces throughout the galaxy. She directed military operations from a command center that existed in quantum flux, making her impossible to locate or target, while allowing her to coordinate activities across interstellar distances. Final assessment of Vorthak elimination confirmed, Su-jin announced during the strategic review. Their species no longer possesses any military capabilities or territorial claims. The 47 species they had previously conquered have been liberated and granted protection under human oversight. But liberation was not the same as independence. The freed species had learned that human protection came with expectations of behavior that aligned with human standards. Any species under human oversight that attempted to attack their neighbors would face the same fate as the Vorthak. The alien ambassadors who had come to New Sol Station were not there to negotiate or establish trade agreements. They had come to formally apologize for ever thinking that humans could be easily conquered. The ceremony was broadcast throughout the galaxy as a demonstration of the new power structure that had emerged. Ambassador Kethril of the Andromedans spoke for the assembled alien representatives. We wish to formally express our regret for underestimating human capabilities and our relief that humanity has chosen to use their power responsibly. We pledge to support human leadership in maintaining galactic peace and preventing future conflicts. The apologies were not entirely voluntary. Every species in the galaxy had received detailed intelligence reports about what happened to civilizations that attacked humanity. The Vorthak Imperium had been reduced from a galactic power to scattered refugees in less than 2 years. No one wanted to experience the same fate. Captain Woojin Park had been assigned to command the memorial fleet that maintained permanent orbit around the glassed ruins of Earth's former cities. The ship served as a reminder to visiting aliens of what happened when humanity was attacked without provocation. Tours of the devastation were mandatory for all alien diplomatic personnel. Memorial site visitors report understanding of consequences, Woojin noted in his log. Ambassador delegations from 12 species completed tours today. All expressed appropriate horror at the scale of destruction and commitment to peaceful relations with humanity. The memorial sites were more than just historical preservation. They were active weapons in humanity's psychological warfare campaign to prevent future attacks.